Check, 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 check. Hello, hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? All right. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Just to cover all bases, my name is Ray.
Hi, Ray.
I'm Mandy's son. A year ago, we were sitting in a Thai restaurant celebrating my mom's birthday, and I took a picture, and I realized it was her 59th birthday. And I thought, man, we're gonna have to do something for next year. It's a big milestone. And for her 50th birthday, we did a surprise party and didn't tell her about it.
You didn't invite her?
And she thought that we hadn't planned anything for her 50th birthday.
I remember.
And so my sister gets home to pick her up for her birthday party, and she's sitting in the living room eating a tiny birthday cake she bought for herself as the only celebration she was going to get for her 50th birthday. So I said, 60th birthday, no surprises. We're doing a big party. We're going to give her the quinceañera she didn't get when she was a kid. And we're here. So thank you so much for being here. It's super wonderful. Before we get started with any further festivities, we have two guests who are not here with us tonight. As most of you know, a month ago, my beautiful grandma, Mama, passed away and went to her eternal reward. And as most of you don't know, a very, very good friend of the family passed away yesterday. And if they were able to be here, and in all of our planning for this, they would have been two of our highest esteemed guests at this party. And so we want to start tonight with a moment of silence for Mama and for Mark. Thank you. Well, we have a lot of fun planned for tonight. I just wanted to take a minute before we get to dancing and doing all that fun stuff to say some words about my mom. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a mama's boy. And so, so it's my great honor to say some words about her. I remember when I was a teenager, I was hanging out with Jeff, and he was on the phone with somebody, or he was talking to somebody, I don't remember who, I don't remember the context, but he was talking about his mom, our Gigi. And he said, I owe that woman more than I could ever repay her. And that line just went straight in my heart and never left. And I thought, what a beautiful way to speak about your mother. And I knew that I felt the exact same way about my mother. My mom has been the single greatest influence on my life, the most important person in my life, the strongest person in my life, and there's nothing I could ever do to repay her for what she has meant to me. She was born September 7th, 1999. And I've spent a lot of time the past few weeks and months preparing for this, thinking about that life. And there are two things I know about that life. I know that life has been very hard. And the other thing I know about that life is that it has been beautiful. And that big contradiction defines my mother. Like a diamond, the thing that makes it hard is what makes it beautiful. In thinking about our lives together, especially over the course of the past few weeks, I said to a friend, we're not the ones good things happen to. And I said it kind of in jest, but also there have been a lot of hard times. And the earliest memories I have with my family are of getting through hard times. My father passed when I was 7 and Desiree was 8. And my mom was 35 years old. I'm 33 now. And I can't believe how she got through that. There's an image I think of during hard times in my life, or when I have things that I don't want to do and I don't want to face that are scary to me. I have an image I think of. And that's the image of me and Desiree coming home from school on September 10th, 1998, and seeing my mother at the kitchen counter. She was waiting for us. And we were told to go into the bedroom and wait for her. She had something to say. But I took a moment to see her, and for the first time in my young life, recognized distress. And after that, she had a conversation with us, saying that Daddy had gone to heaven. And then we cried. And a lot of those memories from there are very difficult to remember. I think my brain is just like, we're not going to need to remember this. This sucks. We're going to put that away. In my adult life, I learned that's called trauma. So there's something I learned. Yeah. And I remember some good times for sure, and a lot of people that are in this room helping us have good times. And I remember my mother being sad and crying. Great party speech, right? But I say that because I remember hearing an interview with Stephen Colbert and Howard Stern. And for those of you who don't know, Stephen Colbert, when he was young, his brothers and father died in a plane crash. And his mother raised him by herself. And Howard Stern asked him, do you find that you have a lot of stress in your life with women who are sad and trying to make them happy? And Stephen Colbert stops. He said, how did you know to ask that? He said, well, because my mother was sad. And when I heard that interview, I went into tears. I realized I had the same thing. My dad was hilarious. And all of my memories of him as a kid were of him and whoever was around him in stitches. And he was just the life of the moment everywhere he went. And when I was a kid, 7 years old, figuring out what life was going to look like, I realized that I could make my mother laugh. And I could make people laugh. And there was a specific moment where I decided I'm going to be hilarious. And that's how I'm going to get my family through this. And so anyone who's enjoyed my humor over the past 33 years, or anyone who's been sick with my humor for the past 33 years, you have him to thank or blame. But through all of that, my mother never stopped loving us, never took it out on us, never took it out on her friends. And that always stuck with me. And I've always wondered where that came from. Because she wasn't raised to have that strong love. She was raised in a household where that wasn't the standard. And then she found love with my dad. And 10 short years later, that was gone. And nothing could break that strong love that she had. And that's been the example that I've had to follow. A few years after that, this guy with long hair started coming around. A friend from work named Jeff. Yes. I still remember the first time I saw Jeff. We were coming home from school or somewhere, and he was in the garage working on the garage door. And I was like, oh, we hired some guy to... He better do a good job. Still working on it. And I remember a lot of good memories from that time. I remember the first time we went out with Jeff together as a family. We went to go see the Pokemon movie. You remember this, Jeff? I remember being in the movie theater, and there's a scene, sorry to ruin a 20-year-old Pokemon movie if you haven't seen it, but there's a scene where Ash Ketchum is dying and the Pokemon are crying. And I remember being like, crying, and looking over at Jeff, and for the first time in my life, thinking, that person's not having a good time. And as a young kid, realizing he's regretting his decisions. But he stuck around through Pokemon. He stuck around through everything. I remember as a young kid, my mom would tell us stories. My dad knew he was going to die young. And my mom told us stories that he would try to get her to date while they were still married to see what kind of man she would get. And to my knowledge, she never did it. But he told her the kind of man he expected. Someone who would love her truly, not take advantage of her, care for her, and most importantly, someone who would love the kids. Which a lot of step parents, you would think that's a requirement, and it's just not. And I told my mom one time, when Daddy was telling you those things, I think he was spelling out Jeff. Because that's who Jeff has been. And one of the greatest things my mom did to get us through those years was choosing Jeff. I love you, Jeff. Thank you. And Jeff did such a good job of raising us. And I always felt bad that he didn't get to have us as kids. And seeing him with Gabby these kind of 6-7 years has been awesome. Because from the moment she popped out, she loved him more than any of us. And I think that was God's way of rewarding him for loving us so well. Oops, I lost my notes. Well, through the years, there's always been adversity. And whether it was our adversity or the adversity of people we cared about, like a firefighter or a Wonder Woman, my mom would be running into the storm. almost never with solutions or cures, but just to be with the people who were hurting. Just to be with the people who needed help. And sometimes she could help, sometimes she couldn't, but whether or not she could, she was there with them. As a kid, I would read the story of the crucifixion of Jesus, and I was always struck how all the people who loved him, all his disciples, his friends, the people who saw him do amazing things, on the darkest day of his life, they ran away. And there were a handful of people who stayed at the cross with nothing to offer him, nothing they could do to stop it, nothing to give him to ease his pain. But because they loved him, on the darkest day of his life, they stood at the cross with him. The women who loved Jesus, and John, who would become known as the beloved disciple because of that faithfulness. And every time I saw my mom at a funeral or in a hospital room with someone who was just like a friend of a friend, I saw the love of those women at the cross. And I saw the love of God. And that's why she, more than any theologian or anyone I've ever worked with in the church, has shown to me, taught to me, and proven to me the love of God. And I could never turn my back on the love of God because I encountered it and came to know it through my mother. And that's why she's the best person I've ever known. Not because she's perfect, but because she loves perfectly. And she has loved me perfectly, and my sister, and my Jeff, and all of you. And that's why you're here. And that's why I wanted to celebrate her today, even if we had to change the date. Even if everything was going wrong, I'm so happy that we're here. And I know for certain, if it was Mark's decision, he would have us here celebrating my mom. Because she deserves it, and she never gets it. And so for tonight, I want to thank you all for being here and ask you all, any love you may have not given this woman yet, for all the things she's done for you over the years, give it to her tonight. Make sure she knows. Tell her how you feel. And Mom, I can never thank you enough. I can spend the rest of my life trying to show you what you have meant to me and how much I appreciate everything you've done. All the love you gave to me as a kid. All of your patience with me as a teenager. All of my trying to figure it out as an adult. For being super chill about some stuff on the family computer in the early 2000s.
Sorry, man.
I can't thank you enough for being my mom. And I love you. I'll love you forever. And I want to spend the rest of my life making your life a little easier than it's been for the past few years. I want this next chapter to be fun and smiles and laughter. And it starts tonight. So thank you all for being here. We're going to get the dance floor started here in a few minutes. Please drink up, finish up your food, and have fun.